Not necessarily, no.
Alright.
Because before calibration, is it correct? Isn't it correct?
Yeah, right. So that pH sensor doesn't actually measure the pH.
Oh, it measures the pH, but it doesn't know what 0.0 is.
Right.
So basically, by changing that calibration to say it's 7, it's up.
Yeah, right.
You've zeroed it for, okay, 7 is the mark.
Yep.
And with AUP, I'm just going to leave it as the factory default.
So pH changes, does it? Like if more leaves fell in the water, or
Yeah, but it's more so rainfall
okay,
that'll affect.
okay,
Because what happens is, as we're generating our own chlorine, it'll increase the pH.
yep,
And so we'll have an acid feeder hooked up to here.
yep,
That'll be striving, we'll set the pH to be 7.5. And so as this is raising, as chlorine's being produced and it's raising the pH above 7.5, acid will be added to the water drop by drop to bring it back down to 7, or to keep it at 7.5.
right,
Then if you've got some rain that's diluting the chemical in the pool, we assume that the rain here would be a pH of 7. In Melbourne, it's a pH of around 5.
okay,
And so when there's rain that falls into the pool, it's diluting the pH.
Yep.
And so the pH sensor will read, my pH has gone down, so I'll stop adding acid
yes,
until it's required again.
yep,
And as it's continually generating chlorine, there'll be a point in time where acid will be required, and then it'll go like back to the drip, 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 adding the acid again.
yep,
So when the machine's in basic auto mode, or even manually off, it'll continue to scroll through different screens and show you what's going on.
okay,
And so because we haven't done anything with AUP level yet, it's not showing what the AUP level is. It's saying pH, and so this button on the left here, we can set
right.
we can set where we want things to be.
So you hit it at the
And so we'll set that.
Yep.
AUP set point is 600. We'll leave it at that for now.
Yep.
If in manually testing your pool, if you're finding the chlorine level is down a little bit, increase the AUP.
Yep.
So increase the AUP, say 20 at a time.
Yep.
And go accept. And our pH set point is going to be 7.5, because that's the right number for a tile pool. Accept.
So that's pretty much a set number then. That's on ideal. Okay.
So your pH is at ideal, and with your chlorine, it's going to be something that you'll need to monitor. And so, because we haven't done any calibration for the chlorine or the AUP,
Yep.
we're just assuming the factory setting is correct.
Right.
But we'll need to be checking our chlorine from time to time.
Yep.
And so whatever point this is zeroed at,
Yep.
doesn't matter,
Yep.
because we're going to be increasing or decreasing our AUP target point to be achieving the level of chlorine we want in the pool.
Yep.
So if we don't have quite enough chlorine in the pool, we'll increase the AUP reading by 20.
Yep.
If our chlorine level is too high, we'll decrease the chlorine level by 20.
Yep.
With chlorine, UV light is what dissipates the chlorine.
Yep.
Without stabilizer in your pool, on a warm sunny day, you can lose 80% of your chlorine
Sure.
in 2 hours.
Sure.
With stabilizer, you only lose about 10% of your chlorine.
Yep.
So when we're looking at our chlorine levels, really ideal 3 is our target.
Yep.
I'll let you know what test kit to be buying, to be checking.
Yep.
And really we want it to be at that level at the end of the day.
Yep.
And so if we're checking, because during the day at this stage we're running this, so this will be generating chlorine during the day.
Yep.
And so at the end of the day we want it to be 3.
Yep.
So once again, if our chlorine reading we're taking at the end of the day is too low, press set, increase the set point by 20. If our chlorine level is higher than 3, decrease it by 20. And once you've done this for just a few days, you better let it go.
Yep.
Then just be checking it once a week,
Okay.
once a month, and then once you're feeling more comfortable with where it's all sitting, probably every three months or so would be enough to be checking your set points and where it's set.
Okay.
So we'll we'll leave it at 600 just for now because that was the factory default. And we'll put we'll put the pool back into AI mode. There's yeah, so we don't set pump speeds or anything else.
Yep.
So if our chlorine level's a little bit low, it'll run the pump at high.
Okay.
And if all things are normal, it'll run the pump at low.
Yep.
The other thing to show you is with the pump, we can lift up this lid and we can change its default speeds.
Yep.
So by default, it's running at 2850 when it's first priming. Once it's finished priming, if all things are set, it'll just revert to low. And if we just press the button here low, it's running at 1325. And in medium, it's running at 2000. But you guys quite like the speed of 2000.
Yeah.
So just now we're going to change medium speed to 2500. So we just use this up arrow.
Right.
And now medium default speed is at 2500. And our low speed, instead of being at 1325, we're going to up that to 2000.
Okay.
So you can manually.
So why would
you can manually override your pump, what your default pump speeds are.
Yep.
And the reason why we did that is because you quite like 2000 as your default speed.
Yep.
So when all things are set up normally in AI mode, this will turn things to run at default.
Yep.
And so it'll run the pump at low.
Yep.
And we've changed the low speed to be 2000.
Yep.
So when all things are balanced, this will just run at 2000.
Yep.
Instead of 1325 as factory default.
Yep.
But at any time you can change that, because you might be, oh well, look, we've manipulated like our water flow here,
yep.
and really we don't like 2000 anymore, we like 1950.
Yep.
And so then you can change this pump speed to 1950.
Yep.
And it'll always revert to 1950 each time in the future when it's running on low.
Yep.
And that's it for what's going on here.
Awesome. So
we might turn it off and see if we can crack this open. And just for safety reasons, well, not safety reasons, but let's just put that to there. Use a hammer, and hopefully it'll fall apart. Hopefully we don't have to run and get a.
Just to fix our leak. Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't have to run and get a heat gun. Oh, we got lucky. Look at that.
Beautiful.
It's just a join that I missed.
So that wasn't cemented at all?
Not at all.
Good. I was going to say that cement came apart pretty easy if it was cemented.
If that was glued.
Not glued. If that was glued, it wouldn't be coming off, would it? Because it'll be fused. You'd have to cut the pipe out.
No, it was actually glued.
Okay.
Yeah. We got it out without a heat gun, so that's a good thing. There you go. I've never tried to get it apart with a hammer before, but that saved us a 15-minute trip to the hardware store.
Oh, probably more than that. By the time we found the heat gun, more like 3 hours if they've got it.
So the thing now is we'll just get this.
Draw it out and glued.
Yeah, dried out and glued.
I think this is empty, the priming fluids.
Yes, it's not ideal, but we'll.
I got some more glue that apparently has got the primer built into it. When I was down there, I just grabbed some.
That sounds like marketing rubbish.
Yeah, right.
So what I'm going to do is glue this up. And then I think we've got a completed install.
Brilliant. And then it's really just the actual logistics of day-to-day running. Like if everything's sort of set up reasonably automatically.
Well, I'm going to leave it on auto. Like you won't have to worry about doing anything.
Except adding... so nothing, eh? Just leave it on auto.
Leave it on auto. Check your chemicals. Check your chemical readings from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
and be inputting them into here.
So test the pool water.
Yes.
Right, and then enter those readings into there. Okay, I get you.
Yeah. Don't play with AWP though.
Right.
We'll just leave it that whatever 0 point factory has it.
Yep.
That's okay, and we'll just slightly increase or decrease so that we're getting our chlorine level in the pool.
Yep.
Because really we want a chlorine level of 3.
3. But how are we measuring that? How do we know that the chlorine level in the pool is 3?
With the test strip.
Test strip. Okay. And then the pH we also have to test.
To be calibrating the AWP level on this, it becomes quite a technical thing because it's things like the temperature of the water,
yep.
the amount of stabilizer that's in the water,
yep.
The actual time of the day that it is.
Yep.
Because if you start reading about AWP, they talk about it's a moving target.
Yep.
And so to calibrate the AWP reading for this finitely and precisely, technically it's impossible.
Right.
So that's why we're just using whatever default they've got this as,
yep.
as that's okay.
Cool.
And we'll just increase or decrease our AWP target point.
Yep.
And that'll get us what we want. Because really we want chlorine level of 3. That's what we want.
Okay.
We don't want chlorine level of 6 or 10 or 1. We want chlorine level of 3 because if you read in the internet, they talk about chlorine level between 1 and 3 is ideal. With all of our normal pool customers, I say to them, let's target 3 because it's a little bit higher, like with kids and things,
yep.
and toilet accidents and so on.
Yep.
It's just that little bit higher level of sanitisation.
Yep.
Public pools will run their chlorine levels between 5 and 6.
Right.
A chlorine level of 8 or higher, it can cause respiratory issues
right.
with the quite young or quite old. So a chlorine level of 8 really isn't safe for swimming.
Right.
A chlorine level of 5, yeah, really it's too high. Public swimming pools, there's lots of toilet accidents and things, and so they're just trying to keep sanitisation up here.
You can,
with a private pool, and call it like young kids that are going to be here from time to time or whatever, or even all the time, a chlorine level of 3 is sufficient.
Cool.
And so we're just going to be manipulating that chlorine target level up 20 or minus 20,
yep.
so that ultimately we're going to be set at a chlorine level of 3 at
yep.
the end of the day.
Yep.
And then once we're there, you're probably pretty much going to find this is almost going to be a set and forget.
Good.
You won't be needing to be testing those so often.
Yep. Okay. So we need to test the chlorine levels and the pH levels. Okay.
But I'd take you further. I'd say we should also be checking alkalinity
yep.
regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Calcium stabiliser is more a couple of times a year thing.
Mm-hmm.
And your salt should normally be a couple of times a year thing, but probably all those we need to monitor a little bit more because you're going to have a dilution problem here.
Yes, yep, okay. So what happens if we set this and it's running and we forget to do stuff or we just leave it? What's going to be the net result in the water? It's going to start going green or?
Yes, because your biggest thing is going to be your chlorine level.
Yep.
And if the salt becomes diluted, ideal manufacturer recommended salt level is 4,000 parts per million.
Yep.
And so it might even be worth buying a $70 salt reader.
Yep.
So you can keep tabs on where your salt is.
Yep.
And I can let you know through, I'll show you through internet or a cheap salt reader to buy.
Yep.
And your 4,000 is our target.
Yep. Okay.
So if you've got a big water dilution problem, yeah, that would be it.
Okay.
What might have been the issue with this is because we've got a bit of weight on there.
Oh, it's pulling it down.
And as that glue was drying, a little bit duressed.
Yes.
So it may be.
Do you want to put a clamp on that, like something for it, like a clamp on the water that it takes away the valve?
What it might be worth doing is just gluing this on here for now.
First, right.
And then 24 hours later, put this up and and our leak problem should go away.
Okay.
Yeah, all I can guess is because we've got some weight that's there.
Yep.
Duress the joint while the glue was drying, which is why we got drip, drip, drip.
Yep. Okay.
So let's just glue this in.
Yep. And then stick that on, let it 24 hours to cure.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Then turn him on.
Cool. All right.